Bridging in and setup. Rick establishes.
How you open a scene is critical. If you open too early, your reader gets bored. If you open too late, you're probably going to confuse the reader. A scene that is that 3.5 to 7 page unit must open just as or an instant before an action or idea commences. Now, most scripts I read and the critiques I do, they have little trouble with this since U.S. films tend to emphasize plot and action. Most writers sense that dynamic and they produce it correctly. Still, you need to be aware of this when you write and how to open that scene. It's just as the action or theme begins. Once you understand this concept, then you need to look at the entire scene opening, which consists of that first slug line and the few paragraphs of direction and/or dialogue that follow. In those few paragraphs, you need to produce a lot of information. You need to show time and location, tone, characters, place, situation, and/or an object, a sense of style and pace, engaging the reader so they want to know what happens next. Now, time and location, of course, are generally introduced in the first slug line of the scene. But if you introduce the scene with, say, an object, say the diamond that the character's trying to steal, you obviously hold back the other information until maybe a second slug line. Sometimes the slug line doesn't give you enough information as to time or place. It may take a paragraph to tell the reader that, or how the place appears, or how the rising or lowering of a sun affects the situation, or how the situation or place affects the characters and their agenda. Tone is an essential part of writing and connecting with that reader. Is the writing breezy? Is it comic? Is it dramatic? Is it serious? Is it dark, or some other tone? Are your descriptive paragraphs short? Each one 3 to 4 lines, or maybe 1 line each. And incidentally, a descriptive paragraph should never be over 4 lines. If you have a 6 or 8 line paragraph, break it up into 3 or 4 paragraphs. This isn't a novel or short story, and there's no rule that says you can't make several small paragraphs from one larger one. In fact, the rule is that's exactly what you should do. When a paragraph changes character or object or situation, which is often, then break it up. Put a new paragraph in. Whether you follow a slug line with a descriptive paragraph or dialogue, you need to set up the scene so the reader has a sense where that scene might be heading. A scene opening must have something happen. This always involves characters, of course, whether they're humans or aliens or ghosts or monsters or insurance salesmen. They must have a goal, and they must be doing something to accomplish that goal. The pace of the scene and your style of portraying it is essential to making that opening work and connecting with the reader. So remember how and where and what they are doing or discussing, their actions and anything matters a great deal. And that's up to your skill and your passion to get across what is happening in a way that engages the reader. The entire time you're building your opening, it's important to remember that what you are also doing is setting up the audience for the magic show. That show is like all good magic acts. The audience expects one conclusion, and you're going to give them something even bigger than expected or different from what they expected. That's called a reversal, which we will discuss. So the opening slug line and those few paragraphs, perhaps another slug line that follows, are critical to each scene and must have the reader reading intently and turning that page afterwards, just totally curious and anxious to discover what happens next.